Hey everybody, welcome, and thank you for listening to this episode of Marriage Therapy Radio. My name is Zach Brittle. I'm here again with my friend Annie. This is episode 2 together. Last week was kind of the ballad of Zach and Annie. This week I get to pick her brain about complex trauma, which is an area that Annie knows quite well as a therapist, and also just as a human being. We talk about how it plays in a marriage, and what that may mean for one or both partners. I get to try out a new theory that I've been messing around with about time travel. It's kind of like time travel, but be interested to know what you think about that. Mostly I'm just grateful to be able to have meaningful conversations with my friends and you. I continue to be encouraged by your emails and by those of you who continue to support us on Patreon. I got a couple of new folks this week, which was real nice. If you are interested in keeping Marriage Therapy Radio on the air, please consider becoming a paid member at our Patreon community, which you can do at patreon.com/marriagetherapyradio, or just go to marriagetherapyradio.com and click on the banner there so that I can continue to make great content for you, continue to make the world a better place through healthier relationships, which, I think we really need right now. At the moment, I hope you'll enjoy this conversation about trauma, which is a thing. This is a very cool conversation. Stick around.
I don't know if your first podcast you did this, but I woke up a couple nights last week scared that I said something to your 6 viewers about Matt that Matt's going to be mad at that I shared.
Oh, yeah?
Did you,
what'd you find out?
Well, I don't know because I don't know what I said. I just know that I said a lot.
Well, for me, that's a bigger question about you and Matt. Like, what is Matt? What's Matt expecting, or what does Matt think in general? He knows who he married.
Fine. Yeah.
The way I always say it is, Rebecca's always the hero of my stories. Like, I'm really careful to make sure that she doesn't get, that I don't.
I do that by
her.
Design. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then if I do slight her, I just make sure I tell her in advance.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, by the way, this last thing I did, you might not come out looking so good, but I don't think overall it's a big deal.
Okay.
So
you didn't pick up anything that was like, oh shit, you shouldn't have said that.
No, but also I love Matt and I love you both.
I know.
Like, I think it's so funny too.
Me too.
You probably remember this, but I don't know if there are enough people listening to appreciate this, but you guys I told a story about you guys one time where I was in your kitchen.
Yeah.
And you had this like really artful argument, literally right over me. Mm-hmm. Like you were in front of me at the kitchen sink and he was behind me at the pantry. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, what's going to happen? What is going to happen? So, I think he can handle it. He's a big boy.
Yes, he is a big boy.
All
right. What are we talking about?
Lots of things. In particular, you were so adorable. You're like, hey, I need to clarify some things I said the other day. Yeah. Because I love that you are thinking about it. I do the podcast and I turn it off and I'm like, okay, on to the next thing. Let's move. But you had things that were on your mind. Like, I'm interested to hear about them. Do you remember what they were? Because I'll pull it up for you if you don't.
You asked me about marriage, its role or whatever. And so regardless of what I said, the 2 other thoughts I had is we typically marry. I see a lot that the couple, we'll marry somebody we want to borrow something from. And the example, when I think about meeting and falling in love with Matt, he was so spontaneous and full of risk, and I was living a very small life. And I remember he went and he found all the authors that I like to read, and he bought the books and he put them next to his nightstand to make me think he read them, and he still hasn't. And so I have to believe there's a depth and a slowness to me that he wanted to borrow.
Yeah.
So that was one of them. And I see that a lot in couples. The divine setup piece is meaning in marriage, then you have the chance to borrow that. If I'm going to borrow something from you, then I'm actually going to grow and heal. And now all of a sudden I'm going to become more of me and hopefully be married to more of you. But a lot of times we crash into that transition. And I think I used an example of somebody that, all of us, we have to, It's like I might have said this before, but I say it all the time in my office. When we grow up, it's like we're handed this map of how to do life. And we take that map with us, and then we find a place where that map works, right? And in marriage, we have the opportunity, once we heal and we grow, to expand our map, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of them.
Is it the same as like sometimes it's not quite a metaphor, but the way I think about it is like you grow up and you come from this culture, and then you have this person that you meet, and they come from this other culture, and then the two of you get together and you have to create this brand new culture. And it's not so much that it's from scratch. It's literally like you got to take what works from your side and what works from your side, and we match it together, and maybe that's the new map, or maybe that's the map that kind of becomes the next thing. Is that similar to what you're describing?
But I think I talked about chemistry last week. That's where it got all, like, I have so many thoughts, but it's like I can't really sum it up. But like, in order for me to want to join you in your culture, I have to have some elements of my culture that already exist in yours, because I know how to do my culture. It's unrealistic to think I'm just going to spontaneously go. I'm not going to feel safe enough. Like, so, I have a couple who, but actually this is very common, where one of the spouses needs to hide. They found safety in hiding growing up, right? Like it's not very safe bringing who I am to the table. It doesn't either work in our family, or I've just gotten the message there's no room for me in this family. So I'm going to hide a little bit of a lot of who I am. They often marry somebody that takes up all the space. And the person who grows up that takes up a lot of space in the house has to go find somebody. They have to marry somebody that lets them take up all the space.
Interesting.
They can't not in order to get married. And it's usually not a very easy and kind process then once you're married to go, okay, let's just look at our maps and see how we can expand one big map.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'm chuckling to myself because I'm thinking about this one client, and I told her, I said, I'm probably going to talk about you tomorrow. And she goes, you better not. And I go, I'm going to. She's
Wait,
like,
is that consent? You better not.
And then I asked her at the end, I said, are you going to be mad at me if I talk about you? She said, yep. Okay. But here you are. I mean, this is a little bit of the situation that I actually do want to ask about, because there's this collision of, in this particular relationship, there's this collision of someone who's kind of takes up a lot of room, and someone who is trained to not, literally to disappear and be invisible and unseen. And so anyway, that's my not so subtle nod at the shift that I want to make. But part of why I want to talk to you overall is because you have a perspective on trauma that I don't have and am interested in. And so can I just pick your brain for a little while?
Pick it.
Well, here's the beginning. And it's a little bit of an inelegant transition, but I'm going to hover around this kind of one case study that I've been thinking through. But the first thing I want to ask is, like, what is the difference between, okay, hold on. Right now in the world, trauma is a big, buzzy phrase. Everybody's got trauma. Everybody's talking about their trauma. We got to deal with our trauma. Your trauma comes from here. There's capital T trauma. There's little lowercase t trauma. I think I've come to terms with like one story in my own life that I can call my trauma. And it's actually relatively benign, like on the scheme of like disruptive things that happen to people. It's probably like a 4 out of 10 or something. But it's a big deal to me. Like it shapes a lot of the way I think about being, in particular, in relationship with Rebecca. So I want to just acknowledge that, like, in talking about trauma, I'm not trying to do like the trendy, sexy thing.
Yeah, I
where
got
it's
you.
Like, let's talk about the thing, the topic du jour. But there is a question that I legitimately am interested in, which is the difference between what we might call trauma and what you have often referenced, which is complex trauma. And I don't know if I can like thoughtfully articulate the difference to anyone, least of which my clients. But when you think about trauma,
Mhm.
and in particular complex trauma, how do you make sense? Like, how do you
How do you
discern that?
distinguish? Yeah.
Like, yeah, how do you
So,
do it?
so trauma, how we know it and the world knows it, and what you were describing is a 4 out of 10 in comparison. There's a clean before and after, right? So
Mm.
I'm
Yeah,
going on and I have a worldview and I'm developing, and then something big happens,
yeah,
and then life is different.
yeah. And in my
That's what.
case, it's like probably like 90 days, because
Mhm.
it's a clean before and after of about
Yep.
a 3-month period. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can clearly look back and go, there was a before, this thing happened, and then I was different.
Mm-hmm.
Complex trauma has a lot of definitions. But globally, if we hold it loosely, we all have it because it looks at it's long term, it's pervasive, and it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
So before memory, I know the layout of the land and the little culture I'm growing up in before I
Mm-hmm.
even have language and memory.
Can you attach that to the map?
Yes. Like I already have, before I have memory, which involves language, I'm already exposed to this culture and I'm learning the land that I'm living in. And then I'm being handed, either being handed or I'm creating a map on how to navigate this world that I'm living in
Mm-hmm.
called family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it looks at the effects of where I wasn't free to either be who I was or say what I saw or feel how I feel. So as a kid, like I want to be able to bring who I am to this microcosm of a family.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, we, who our kids are helps to expand who our family is. And that I had a big dilemma when I remember Sammy, one of my twins, when she was like 14 or 15, I was like, hey, sweetie, we don't do that in this family. And I was like, wait a second, but she does this and she's in our family, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
eventually they have to individuate and become their own and have their own relationship with self, God, their God, and others. And like, and there's a huge, like, that doesn't happen when you go to college. It starts to happen,
Mm-hmm.
can my kid influence what we're doing? We start as like, you get to pick what we're doing Friday night,
Mm-hmm.
you start small, but like complex trauma looks how safe were you to bring who you were, how, and it looks at how afraid were you to bring your needs or your fears
Mm-hmm.
to the people that are supposed to keep you safe. Complex trauma there's a clusterfuck there. Like, shit, I am afraid of you and you're supposed to be keeping me safe. So I have nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to go internally and find resources. I got to back up and adapt. I mean, complex trauma looks like adaptation. So I
Mm-hmm.
adapt away from my true self.
Huh.
Is that
Well,
helpful?
yeah. I mean, except that I
Mhm.
have now a million more questions, which is this. Even though I'll start with the thing you just said. Like, how do you know, or what's the true self? Like, I have to adapt away from my true
Mhm.
self, but here I am in this environment forming myself in real time.
Mhm.
Like, how does that?
Well, because typically the parts of us that are not allowed in our house, either there's no room for them or, and most of the people that have a fair amount of complex trauma, you got to look at intent versus impact.
Hmm.
Like I triggered the crap out of my mom. My mom didn't know how to have relationship with people that were other than her. So
Uh-huh.
anytime I was by myself, it triggered her whatever, right?
Hmm.
And so she would get big and scary. Her intent wasn't to scare me. Her and her intent was to protect herself. She would get triggered
Hmm.
and she would go big, not on purpose to scare me, but the
Uh-huh.
impact it scared the crap out of me.
Uh-huh.
So I had to back away and start hiding the parts of me that were trying to come out on scene. So I learned how to hide.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm not going to bring who I am. If I can't bring who I am in front of the people that are supposed to teach me who I am and keep me safe, I'm not going to go, that's not going to change when I go out in the big bad world.
Uh-huh.
Right. So the true self, it looks at vulnerabilities, like in my case, in your case, I would say when you have superpowers, that's an indicator that you have a fair amount of unhealed complex trauma, which is relational trauma.
Say more about superpowers.
Superpowers are like my superpower. They're character traits that are maladaptive, but they're productive.
Uh-huh.
They're maladaptive because they're filling roles. So mine, if I think of, okay, part of my character traits is I was born as somebody who had intuition.
Uh-huh.
And I'm also born as somebody that's pretty flexible. So those two things, those were two of the character traits that I needed to use to keep me safe. So I could read the tenor of the house and adapt and be flexible, right? And then I bring those into the world. But those two character traits are keeping all the other parts of me safe. Let me if I'm at risk, if I can't make mistakes, if I can't laugh out loud, if I can't be who I am, say what I see, it's hard when you have, I have a whole lot of Christian, probably half of my practice has a Christian faith to it. And that's a tricky thing. Like, how do you expose your kids to a religious worldview, but at the same time, let them cultivate their own faith, right? Like somewhere in there, we're not doing a good job saying, okay, well, as a kid, we're going to tell you what to believe. And now you're an adolescent and we're going to like let you start to figure that out and cultivate your own faith. It's more, we don't do that in our family, or this is what our family believes, or this is what our religion believes. That's going to communicate to me that I'm doing something wrong, trying out things.
That's intriguing. I wonder if it's attached to this thing that I sometimes say about people who are churched or who come up in the church, is that everyone I know whose faith I respect and appreciate found it after they left their parents' church. Like there's this.
That would be true about me.
Yeah. Well, of course. You're on the list of people.
Oh. I just didn't know. Like, I was like, I don't know if you like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here I am. I've been born into a world with my gifts and my superpowers. And
your traits, like your gifts and your traits and all of that. They become superpowers when you use them, when they get a lot of heavy lifting. They're like muscles. So if I have a couple character traits that I use to keep me safe from being embarrassed or shamed or missed, then they're going to get a lot of time at the gym, right? Yeah. And my other character traits are going to get atrophied. That's what I mean about true self. There are parts of me that had never seen the light of day because I never exposed them to sunlight. Because I used my intuition and my flexibility to hide to keep those parts of me really, really safe. So I'm not going to go out in the big bad world and then open the trap door and let all those unexposed parts to the sun without sunscreen. Like, I'm just going to keep, and that's that map. So I'm going to find somebody that I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. I'm going to find friends. I'm going to find a job that lets me get paid for my superpowers.
Okay, so you wrote this sentence in the last email you sent me, and I think this might be where you're headed, but we tend to marry someone who answers our loudest question and or meets our greatest needs at a given time. Is this what you're talking about when you talk about how, okay, so speculate about that.
So I would say, I think if most of us were honest and we've been married for more than a decade, we're different people. And we would look back and go, would I marry that same person with who I am today? I'm not sure. And so
Hmm.
there's red flags with all of us, but we're not gonna, I mean, that whole love is blind. It's typically like Matt offered me something that bypassed my superpowers. Like I always wanted an extravagant life, to live out loud, to have adventures. And that's who I married.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but in Seattle, he wear a bright orange jacket. And I'd be dressed in gray and black sitting by a fire, right?
Yeah, you're
Like,
wearing the uniform like today.
yes, the uniform. So like I survived by keeping my world very small, and I
Mm-hmm.
married somebody who had a very big world.
Mm-hmm.
And that got my attention, and I wanted what he had, right? And that was the biggest need at the time. He also had a job, and I didn't have any money.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up without him. I grew up without electricity every summer, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so looking back, I'm like, oh, that made a lot of sense to me. Wow, this guy has a job and he has a car, he's got health insurance, and he likes me and he's fun.
Yeah.
I didn't have any of those, and I wasn't fun. I was deep.
Yeah.
But what happens then when that question gets answered or that need gets fulfilled? This is where I really identify with what Sky said on your boat night talk. Was he's married? He's on his fourth marriage to a same wife.
Uh-huh.
Because once that need is filled or that question is answered, we're different. And then we have to go, what do we do with this difference? Do we leave the marriage, or do we leave this marriage and birth out a different marriage with the same person?
Mm-hmm. Well, it raises a question for me that I think is about and around like whether or not our spouse is meant to heal our trauma, our complex trauma. Like, is it too much pressure? Is it the wrong question? Like, what's the role of the spouse now that you've found them and you've said, okay, you've got parts of the map that I can attach to, and I can make sense of this right now, and you fill some gaps for me. How do you see that playing when, now I've shifted one family and now I have this other family, this new family that now we've created, and what do you think?
Well, it's the end of after 26 years of marriage, would I marry Matt with who I am now back then? No.
So knowing what you know now,
yep.
like
And who I am, if I met Matt of who he was 26 years ago, I would not have married him.
Mm-hmm.
However, I am who I am today because of being married to him. So I can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it's more, what do you do with that? Like, it fills me with gratitude. Like, is it his responsibility to heal no, I think it's a byproduct and an opportunity that can happen in marriage. Because a lot of our fights early on, came from my terror. I just remember being in the first week of being married to Matt, driving across country. I was mad at him 100 times, 100 million times. I've never felt mad at my father. I'm like, that's data. I don't know what to do with that data, but like, that's something. But, I can marry a guy who puts me in a place of dependence. And that was tricky for me because I had survived by becoming independent, and he's trying to say, depend on me. Now that's a tangent, but I'm like, is it his responsibility? No. Is it my responsibility? No, but it's my opportunity. And then complex trauma and counseling, it does. I remember Allender saying this, like, it's really hard to heal from trauma without being married to a good person. Like he was talking about sexually abused women, right? And the merit to that is they can offer you a corrective experience. So my map is going to tell me some things. I know something about the world that's true to me. And in marriage, I get a rewind, press play. And if it has a different ending, then I've healed some. Right? So I see that in like counseling people. Like, if every time somebody gets mad at their person, they leave, and they're my client, and they got mad at me and I stayed,
Hmm.
that provided there's a different outcome. When you have a fair amount of complex trauma, you have like a true false test, and you want to have multiple choice. You want to have different outcomes. You don't want to say, well, I know how that goes, and this is how it goes every time. So in counseling somebody with complex trauma, one of the key things is you're offering them a corrective experience where they're rewinding, they're coming in and putting their map and trying to make it play out in your office. And you welcome that map, but you give them an alternative ending. You build a different road.
Yeah.
Same in marriage, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I hear you. And so now I have this other question, which is, it's hard to recover from complex trauma if you're not married to a good person. I think that's what you said, or that's what you said, Allender said. But
yeah,
if you have been subject to an environment that makes you feel unsafe and the people around you aren't good, how do you learn, or can you learn to let your partner be good? Like, is there
yes.
Can they be good for you, or do you not have that skill, or is that something you cultivate? Or
I can tell you what, yes.
Yeah.
So I married a really good man, a great man. However, I couldn't handle it. I was outside my threshold of tolerance. So I was in a panic for the first 15 years of my marriage. I remember going, okay, I did an experiment in my brain. What is that? It's a story about some Indian and some chief. And the chief
I'm excited
says
to talk to you about brain experiments, because I got one that I want to flow by you to see if it works.
Okay.
But go ahead.
And basically it talks about the chief tells the Indian, you have two wolves on your shoulder. Yeah. And one's fighting for good, one's fighting for evil. And the Indian says, like, which one wins? He goes, it's the one that you feed. And I got that got my attention. And so I was like, okay, Annie, I have a confirmation bias because I need to have it. That I interpret Matt's actions as he's not safe. He's not a good person. I have to, in order for me to stay married, I have to believe he's bad, because I know how to do bad. All right. So for 1 week, listen to Matt like he's a male client of yours, because you crush it at the office. You're really good with guy clients. Just listen to him. And after a week and a day, you can go back. Because I was like, well, for a week, nothing bad. I can't die. Nothing dramatic's going to happen. So I'm just going to listen to him with a confirmation bias and look for the good instead of proving the bad. And I've never gone back. So it's not like...
Did it cost you anything? I mean,
no. I had all these false beliefs that I knew were true. We were talking about one the other day. I used to think that I could never thank him or affirm him when he did something around the house, because my map told me if you do that, they'll stop doing it. So I have to withhold any gratitude or good affection in order. I got to keep the iron to the fire to keep him doing things around the house. And really it was I remember telling him that, and he's like, it's actually quite the opposite. If you thank me, I'll actually do double. But I didn't know that in my bones. I had to learn that. My body didn't know that.
Well, you had to let him teach you that, right?
Yes. And so how do you do that? It's more because if I grow up, I'm going to surround myself by people that let my map work. So chances are we are going to be around folks that allow us to relate how we've always related. Right?
Yeah.
All right. So what are you going to ask me?
Oh, I'm into, okay. So this is not a super tangent, but it is kind of, I'm into this thought experiment thing. Like, I want to I have this like story that I tell all my clients right now. It's about Abby, who was the morning lifeguard at our pool
Mm.
last summer.
Mhm.
And I'll try and I don't know. I guess I don't need to be quick, but she had to get there early, put the lane lines in, get the adults swimming on time, so the adults could get out on time, so the swim practice could start on time. Blah blah blah, like the whole bit. So on a Monday, she overslept and she didn't get in on time, and she, got she didn't get in trouble. She got a little slap on the wrist and she felt really bad. And then Tuesday she woke up early. She got coffee. She took it into her people. She apologized. She like got the lane lines in. And then when one of the guys was leaving the pool, one of the adult swimmers was leaving the pool that morning, Tuesday, he said to her on the way out, "Thank you for showing up this morning."
Hmm.
Abby decided that he was being condescending and rude.
Right. There it is.
And it ruined her day ruined her whole day. And she fretted about it at her day job. She talked to me about it at dinner. She had this whole thing where she like just spun out. And I said, Abby, maybe he was being condescending and rude. Maybe he was being thankful and kind, Your decision doesn't change him at all. But if you decided that he was being kind, you could have gone on with your day and been fine. We still don't even know what his intention was, but you decided to internalize this message. So she and I practiced all summer sort of changing the message. Like she got an input and she went dark about it. And she was like, and I was like, what if you didn't? What if you picked this other thing? Like, would that free you up to do some stuff? And, she's 22 or 21 and just a lot more malleable mind. Like I said, her brain hasn't been braining. So she's got a lot more
I love that
sort of flexibility in it. But, here I am, I'm 40 years old. I've got all this practice telling myself that like, this is the way the world is organized. This is the way that things play. This is how people are. This is confirmation bias all the time. This person is being condescending and rude to me. This guy doesn't love me. I'm not lovable at all anyway. So I've been really toying with and playing with this, like, what are the options? And I found a lady, her name is Jane McGonigal, and she is a futurist. She's a game theorist and futurist. She teaches us TED Talks and stuff, and I'm just like obsessed with her work right now. But she talks about kind of like future tripping a little bit, where this is the experiment where she says, imagine waking up tomorrow. Imagine just being in your house and waking up and create the scenario, right? So you and I can do it. Like I know what bed I'm going to wake in. I know about what the light's going to be. Rebecca's going to be next to me. This is probably what I'm going to be wearing. This is what I got to do in the morning. Like this is where my head's going to be at. And then she says, okay, now do that same thing, but a year into the future and see if you can do it. So I'm not moving. Like I'm going to live in my house in a year, so I can still do the same kind of thing. You move around a little bit. You move around quite a bit. So maybe you're going to be in the same house, maybe you're not. But then Jane McGonigal says, now do it 10 years into the future. See if you can imagine like where you are, who you're with, what, what's the deal. But she's basically saying, stretch your brain and see if you can create a world in which and that's the thing she says, in a world where Annie is happy, where Annie is loved, a world where, this is how dystopian novels get written. In a world where water isn't available, or in a world where, the government has decided to move to Mars, and then things get written. But those novels get written because people get outside of their really rigid thinking. And that's really cool. I can create a novel. I can create a board game. I can create a whatever. But can you create a different future for yourself? Like a future in where you're loved or you're lovable, or
wouldn't it help you actually help you change your present? If I'm able to picture,
this is the question. Yes.
Yes. I thought you said change your future. I was like, okay,
right. But what I mean is like, if you can create that world, does it change your future through the present? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I can finally create space to imagine something that I couldn't imagine before. Meaning that someone loved me, or that I was safe, or whatever the scenario is.
Yes. It gives you hope, and you start living as if. Again, Alan used to say I don't think he made it up, but it's the already but not yet. And I think folks like us live with the not yet.
Yeah.
But if I just knew that I'm like, oh, that could change how I live today. Right?
Yeah.
It's the difference between being in a groove and in a rut. Thank you for the New York Times crossword puzzle. 3-letter word for groove is rut. I'm like, they're not the same, because a rut you need help out of, right? But that could get me out of a rut if I live today as if that thing is going to be answered tomorrow. It would unleash something, right? But back to Abby, I actually think what's also helpful, because you got to do some mental gymnastics and almost like not trust your gut if you're a woman.
Yeah.
To like,
yeah.
What also is helpful is, okay, so what if he did think that? What if it was sarcastic? Because the thing is, that says so much about him and little about you.
100%. This is what I kept telling her. I was like,
yes.
I was like, maybe he was, but either you're outsourcing your power, yourself to him, or you're not, you know, like,
yes.
So I think I've been using this phrase with clients a lot lately, which is, if I need, let's see, how does it go? If I need someone's love to make me feel good, that's just the other side of the coin of when they don't love me, I feel bad or something like, whatever. So like, but in both cases, I'm outsourcing my self-esteem. Like I'm outsourcing my sense of who I am. So where does like self-esteem come from that belongs just to me, or where can it come from? Where should it come from?
Well,
particularly if you're out of a complex trauma kind of scenario where your whole life is telling you that you're a piece of shit.
If you take self-esteem and change it into your sense of self, right? Because I think in AA, like one of our phrases is, if you want a good self-esteem, do esteemable things. But that is still externalizing, right? That I'm looking for the world to confirm that what I did was good, so I feel good about myself, right? But in complex trauma, it's expanding the sense of self, right? It's finding, where did I adapt far away from who I was born to be? Like, where am I hiding and still protecting? Because the thing is, Zach, I use this with clients. We tend to protect the gold, right? Like if we're protecting a part of ourselves, it means that that's like really important.
You did say that to me once. We protect the gold. We don't protect the silver.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, you can have the silver. This you can't have. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think a sense of self is coming home to like who I am and who I was created to be.
Man, this is a floating one for me. I haven't figured it out because, of course, you know, having grown up in the church, I have all of these little mantras. And I think maybe I said this last week. I can't remember, but I have all these things like that. Every hair on my head is numbered and I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. And I have all this, I've internalized like esteemable messages that come from on high, come from the kind of like the universe or from God himself, you know? But if you don't have that, or if you can't believe that, because maybe even your church harmed you, you know, maybe like all of those messages are coming from a place that was dangerous for you. I'm still trying to cling to and actually give away, like, where does esteem come from?
You know, it's interesting. I just had an insight that you and I might have the flip side of the same coin. Because where I went to with those every hair, I'm like, okay, yeah, so we matter. Right? With my therapy 10 years ago, I had to go all the way to like, I matter. That wasn't working, but I'm made up of matter. And so I get to fill the space that I'm in. So last week you said I'm the world's best kept secret. I'm like, well, I have a lot to do with that. Because some of it is, I don't know how to matter. I was taught that I didn't matter. And I don't know that you got the memo. I don't think, from what I know about you, that it was a really clear message to you that you really matter in a good way. But how we handle it is very different.
I think for me, it was a little more like I mattered too much.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
But you matter too much to somebody.
Yeah.
That's not you mattering for you.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
And so I envy. I'm like, God, I just wish I had an ounce of what you have. Like, I'm like, I don't have the right to take up the space that I'm in. I think that's why I enjoyed last week so much, is because I'm like, oh, you invited me into a space and I helped you fill it up.
Yeah, you did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad that you did. And I've learned a lot today. I think it's going to, I will not turn off this recording and move on and not think about it again. I'll spend a lot of time thinking about what you said, and I'll look forward. We have one more visit. Okay. Thanks again for listening to me and Annie talk about complex trauma and how that works in a relationship. I hope that you got a nugget that you can take away. Again, I appreciate you for sticking around, listening to Marriage Therapy Radio, and for considering becoming a member over at Patreon. Now's a good time to stop what you're doing and go to patreon.com/Marriage Therapy Radio or marriagetherapyradio.com and just click on the banner there. Become a member for lots of cool behind-the-scenes content. But even if you don't do that, I will thank you for the time and attention you're putting into your relationship, making it better today than it was yesterday.